Hey guys, welcome back. This is a video number 2 in our series. I'm your host, of course, Scott Steen. I'm the lead handicapper over at winnersandwhiners.com. I occasionally talk a little horse racing when I'm surrounded by people that know a lot more about it than I am, and that is the case today. We've got the Racing Dudes, a great website, by the way, if you haven't checked that out. If you're ever looking for information on not just the big races, but just the weekend card, definitely check out the Racing Dudes. I've got one of the actual Racing Dudes with me. It is the one, the only Aaron Halterman. Aaron, how are you?
Man, I'm good. This has been the best day of the year for us. Entries for the Breeders' Cup are out, and it's time to stop talking about it and actually get to bet on these races. So, doing great today.
Excellent. And these are all, just for our audience that may not follow it closely, these are all this weekend. We're correct. It's on Saturday and Sunday, which is going to be what, the 5th and 6th? Is that right?
Yeah, it'll be on Friday and Saturday, actually.
Friday and
Yeah.
Saturday. Okay.
Yep. The 4th
All
and
right.
the 5th, they'll run the 2-year-old races on Friday, and then the main 9 races of the Breeders' Cup will be on Saturday.
All right. Very good. And if you, we're just going to touch on 4 of the main races, but if you want to get into the nitty gritty for the whole card, I know the Racing Dudes has put out a fantastic guide about the Breeders' Cup. Tell us a little bit about that, Aaron.
Yeah, our Breeders' Cup wagering guide. It's one of the biggest guides we do all year long. Like you said, we'll preview 4 of the races here, but there's 14 races in all. We've got full write-ups, picks in place for all 14 races. We've got a bankroll management article where we'll tell you exactly what we're going to do and exactly how we're going to play it. So if you're a beginner, that's a really good article to use. And then you'll get the top 4 choices from everybody at the Racing Dudes team in that guide as well. And a couple other nice articles and write-ups from the team as well. So in all, it's like a 32 page guide. And like I said, it's full wall-to-wall coverage of the Breeders' Cup.
Outstanding. Outstanding. All right. So we're going to talk about the sprint. Just for us novices, or for people that maybe even below novice, tell us a little bit about what constitutes a sprint and what makes it different, what you want to look for in a sprint versus a longer race.
Sure. So the sprint is usually a sprint is 6 furlongs, which is 3/4 of a mile. It's just a one-turn race where, like a race like the Kentucky Derby, you go around twice. This, you just go around once. You start on the backside and then you come around to the finish line. Usually horses with speed, that's kind of what you want to look at. Horses with early speed, horses that can get out in front. And it's just common sense. You don't have to go quite as far. It's 6 furlongs, 3/4 of a mile. You'd like to be towards the front, and then you can hold off kind of those horses coming from the back. So speed is really what you want to look for from the sprint. Get out of the gate, get to the lead, and try to hold them off.
Very good. Now, in our first video, we talked about the juvenile and where it kind of relates as far as putting horses in the Triple Crown races. Now, do they ever come out of the sprint where these horses are young, they don't have them stretched out yet? Maybe they're not going longer than 6 furlongs, or is a once a sprint horse, always a sprint horse?
Most of the time, if a horse is a sprinter, they won't really tend to stretch out very successfully. Now, there are a couple of occasions, where that can happen in a horse. Like you said, he's kind of young. They're trying to get him going, and then maybe he can go on to bigger and better things. Most of the horses, though, especially at the Breeders' Cup, they're kind of specialized at the sprint distance. It's kind of, these are the best of the best that can really only go that 6 furlong distance, or maybe just a little bit further, but not going 2 turns. So no, a lot of times the horses that are running in this category, they kind of tend to stay at this distance.
Okay. You hear all the time speed kills, and of course, a 6 furlong race with top caliber sprinters. Do you see anybody stealing this race on the front end and just kind of a deeper dive? How do you see things shaping up for this one?
Yeah, this is definitely true, and that phrase does ring true in this race. We've got one of the fastest horses as far as early speed in the country with the number 9, Jackie's Warrior. He's 4 to 5 on the morning line. He will be ultra tough in this race. He was last year's champion sprinter, almost a flawless year. Now, the one race he did lose last season was at the Breeders' Cup in this very race, but it was a situation where he just went entirely too fast early on in the race. There were other horses that were really fast in that race as well, and he just got burnt out on the lead. Now, you fast forward to this year, he's only lost once so far this season. He's looked very, very good. The one race he lost, he's going a little bit further than he's going to go today. So, look at the pace of this race. You look at the other speed horses. He just seems to be faster early on in this one. I could see him getting out to like a 1, 2, 3 length lead early on in this race. If that's how it plays out, he is going to be really tough to catch.
All right. So do you see him kind of getting out to an early lead and then holding him off, going if he's going to win, is it like a wire to wire situation, or how do you see it playing off? How do you see it playing out, like around the only turn and then down to the wire?
Yeah, I expect him to take the lead really early on in this race, have him kind of at bay going around that turn. And then it's just going to be a matter of if there's anybody close enough to kind of, move into him late and maybe get up and nip him at the wire. I don't really see it happening in this spot. I think he's going to be pretty tough to run down. He's a horse that's just all class. And you look at the rest of these horses, there are a couple that may be threats, but overall, I think he's going to be pretty tough to run down.
All right, very good. And we're going to do this on every video. If you had the desperation 20, if you're down to your last 20, if you haven't read the money management section of the Racing Dude's Guide and you've blown it, maybe you've had maybe a cocktail or two, but the rest of it have just been terrible bets. You got $20 left. All you have is this race. Where's it going?
Well, like I said, I do like the favorite on top, and when that happens, you kind of got to play straight exacta or a straight trifecta. I would do $20 a straight exacta with the 9 Jackie's Warrior in the top spot in that number 1 spot. I really like the number 6 Elite Power at 6-1 in the second spot, and that's the horse I would key in that second spot. Elite Power coming in for Bill Mott, Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard. That's very powerful from a connection standpoint. The horse has never been in a race of this caliber, but boy, he is building up really nicely. He's won several races in a row, including a stakes last time out at Belmont Park. I caught an interview with Bill Mott right before we got on the air, actually, and he said, look, Elite Power is coming into this race beautifully. We could not ask for any more out of him. He's great. He's in the perfect condition right now. I think he's going to step up and run a very big race. I think he'll get second at a pretty good price. I think that $20 exacta will pay pretty well if he gets up there and does it. So I would go a straight $20 exacta 9-6 in this race.
All right, very good. As I hit my 9-6 exacta, which gives me a little bit of a reload to blow on all the other races by making foolish bets. So, all right, very good. And any final thoughts? Any long shots or any other horses that you haven't had a chance to mention? This is your chance.
The one horse that I would like to mention, a horse, the number 5, Aloha West. He won this race last season at a pretty big price. Guess what? He's a pretty big price. Once again, he's 12-1 on the morning line here. Here's the key. If the pace gets hot, which I'm not really projecting, but it's a sprint and anything can happen when they open the gates. If the pace gets hot, look out for the number 5, Aloha West at 12-1. I think he'll come running again. I don't think he's going to get all the way up and win this race like he did last year. But if you're looking for a long shot, he tends to make a lot of sense once again in this spot.
And does a track position matter more in a race like this? Because you don't have time to adjust. You don't have time to be patient and be the stalking horse, so to speak. Is it all kind of compressed into that 6 furlong massive sprint for the finish?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's very tough for a horse from coming way off the pace to win a sprint. And really what has to happen for the horses coming from the back, you got to have horses going up front and going at it early and just really getting into a pace duel where all those horses, when they turn for home, they're kind of coming back to you. If you turn for home in a sprint and the horses that have been in front are still going on pretty strongly, it's really tough to catch them. And that's why I kind of mentioned if the pace gets hot, it does put a horse like number 5, Aloha West, kind of into things, kind of with a shot. If not, he's going to be up against it.
Tell us for novices like myself,
Mhm.
what's the difference in time, like in the Kentucky Derby, for example? What the quarter times versus a sprint?
Yeah, so like for Kentucky Derby, for example, they run it at 1.25 miles. So like your first quarter will run in like 24 seconds, and your half mile usually be 48, 49 seconds. For a sprint, you're going to look at about 2 seconds faster than that. So a quarter is going to go in 22. A half mile is going to go 44, 45 seconds. So that's going to be a big key, right? If you see Jackie's Warrior and he's on the lead, but he ran a half mile and, let's say 44 and change, he might be going a little bit fast. And that's when you could get a horse like Aloha West. If you see him running 45, 46 for that half, yeah, they're in big trouble because he's not going to come back to them.
All right, very good. So basically, well, almost without exception, if you don't get off to a good start, if you get stuck coming out of the gate, if you get jammed, you're probably screwed.
Yep, you need to break from the gate. That's elegantly put.
All right, very good. All right, guys, that's video number 2 down. That is our handicap of the juvenile, or excuse me, of the sprint in this weekend's Breeders' Cups. I'm Scott Steen. He's Aaron Halterman. We're halfway done. We're going to come back and we are going to take a look at the turf running on that grass. So you guys stay tuned. Just click the next video. Don't forget to get the Breeders' Cup guide over there from the Racing Dudes. I'll put, of course, the link in the description of today's video, and we'll be right back.